All right, how you doing, guys? Well, let me get a little intro. Just like the title says, first time I smoked my brakes on my truck and trailer. All right, here's the story. It was back in 2005 when I was beginning my career in trucking, and I was working for a company called Stevens Transportation out of Mesquite, Texas, Dallas area, basically. Okay, I had got my driver's license for CDL, passed the road test, so we got that, and we did all the classes and whatnot, and we were on our. I was on the truck with my trainer, couldn't get it out. Anyway, we were due for about 30 days of training. My training lasted almost 6 weeks, and I made it happen. Things were going good, was having fun, and I try to learn as much as I can. But on this instance, getting back to smoking the brakes, I know I was going down a hill, and wasn't too much of a major mountain. We were somewhere probably in Nevada, Utah, something like that. Can't remember it exactly. I know eventually we went through the McKinley Tunnel somewhere, so we were in the Midwest. Anyway, my trainer was up front in a hot seat there on his truck. It was a Peterbilt with a cat motor, and it was a manual. It was a 10-speed manual. Anyway, he was pretty comfortable with me. I've had jobs in the past that I was driving, box trucks, vans. Also, I was a taxi driver for a few years before that. I was in the limousine business, hotel and airport shuttle. So I was used to driving, especially on the road. I've been cross country. Used to deliver cars with my ex. It was an auto driveway. But focus back. So we're going down the hill. I'm driving, and at that time, my like I said, my trainer was comfortable. He had the shades on, and he was kicking back and catching a little snoozing, So he was right there if I needed him. Anyway, we're going down the hill, and he asked me if I want to use the Jake brakes. So the policy at the time was no Jake brakes and no cruise control. One was for 6 months and the other one was for a year. They wanted you to know how to go up and down mountains and in a manual and be safe and not rely on the Jake brakes. But my trainer, he was comfortable with me. So we used to do a lot of drop and hook trailers. Now, I didn't know that, but this came into play the time when we smoked the brakes. Anyway, I'm going down the mountain, and I got the cruise control on. I don't know if I'm in like 6th or 7th gear, because they never really wanted us to go more than like 25 miles an hour down the hill. A little bit softly mush on the brakes. Keep it in that low gear and just come down safe and slow. They didn't care how much fuel you burnt because your RPMs was going to be high, but they didn't want no Jake brake. Anyway, I'm coming down the hill. I got the Jake brake on a little bit, and I'm looking at the pressure meter, and it looks like I'm starting to apply like 30, 40 pounds to the brakes, and it's slowly starting to go up, and the speed is not kind of necessarily stopping. And I had the Jake brake on. So I know we were pretty loaded. We did a lot of meat, Tyson, chicken, and beef loads like that. So I'm looking in the mirrors, glancing around, and I thought I saw some smoke. But then it went away. Then I thought I smelled it again. So I call up my trainer. I say, Raphael, come take a look, man. I think we're smoking. We might have a flat tire or something. So he's looking. He adjusted his glasses, looked in the mirror, and was like, no, go ahead. So I'm going a little further down, and I keep monitoring in the mirrors, looking. And I see it again, and I told him, I said, hey, listen, I see smoke. I think we got a bad tire on the trailer. Didn't know where it was coming from, but I could just see it, it'd be there and it's not. So it was enough to pull over. So decided to pull over and check it out. Oh my God. The truck's drive rims were like heated up. And you saw the smoke coming out, and as I slowed down, there was more smoke, and you could see. So something was wrong. I didn't understand yet. Then I figured out later what the problem was. Again, I'm a newbie. I got my license maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and my trainer, he kind of like didn't really break it down, So we stopped for about 15 minutes. He says, let's let it cool down and whatnot, which we did, and we took off again. Not even like 5 minutes later, it was doing again because we were still on a downcline, and we pulled over. I mean, it was great. It was embarrassingly smoking. Couldn't do nothing. So we stopped, let it really cool down and stuff. Trying to figure out in my mind, like, oh my God, like this happened. This wasn't my first hill and stuff, but I was trying to process what happened because my mind is, I try to understand what something happened or something caused that. And if I couldn't figure out, it was going to cause me to be fearful from driving. Because if I didn't understand what caused it, I would have thought in my mind, like this can happen anytime, and that would have put a little fear. Sometimes fear is good because you respect. Oh, we got a state trooper over here. He wants to see that sign of respect. Make sure you go around him. So I'm trying to process it, right? And I'm like, man, like what was it? Couldn't understand it. He didn't really give me answers. And I just noticed, like, well, why was it with just the truck and not the trailer? I know we got brakes all the way around. So anyway, we let it cool down and stuff, and trying to figure out like what's going on. And my mind's going around because you're driving, trying to really figure this out. So I started asking my trainer questions. And I said, for it to heat up means one brake is working more than the other. And where the heat was, started to figure out that one was overworking. So still couldn't figure it out at that time. So I asked my trainer, I said, hey man, how do we adjust the brakes? He started ranting and raging. Oh, you just finished school. You should know that. They didn't teach you that. Blah, 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 blah. Made me get on the defensive. But I never seen the guy under the truck either. So I'm thinking, okay. He kind of, made me feel, like it was my fault. That I should know and I didn't know and whatnot. And it caused me to stop asking questions. So I didn't say too much. Now we're driving and we're getting near the McKinley tunnel. And we were going uphill. So when we're going uphill, driving, all of a sudden buzzers going off and everything, and it's doing like a warning shutdown. So had to kind of like pull over and let it stop. And I was saying, damn, just had the brakes catch on fire, and now we're going uphill, and the warning buzzer is gonna shut the truck off. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm thinking, trying to figure this out. So in my mind was like playing with the Rubik's Cube, trying to figure out the combinations. Are they related? No, they're not related, and everything. So I'm really saying, like, man, these are things that happen with my trainer, and I'm not understanding what's happening. So later on, we're driving, and we stop at a rest area, and I remember, and using the bathroom and whatnot, and I started thinking in my mind that, you know what, that something was wrong with the adjustment of the brakes on the truck or trailer. And later on, I figured out, since we do a lot of dropping hooks, we're picking up trailers that we got no history with. We don't know the condition inside the drums and whatnot. We're just so used to kind of running as a team and grab and go, grab and go, grab and go. And, you know, I learned a lot from my trainer. I'm not going to take that from him, but I learned a lot of expedited shit. You know, how to keep the truck running, you know, and making money and doing your miles and keeping the front door closed, how to do the logbook and all that. But what concerned me is, in a couple weeks, he wasn't going to be around, and I didn't have answers for this. So to respond back to him when he kind of got defensive, made me feel a little foolish about I needed to know how to adjust the brakes and with the slack adjusters and all that, and I didn't at the time. And I'm just, you know, I'm a big guy. I'm like, our job is driving, not fixing the truck and that kind of stuff. And that's where I kind of disagree, where we're held responsible for the condition of the truck. I feel drivers should be able to have transparency where, like, we can say, hey, listen, there's something wrong with the truck. I'm working for a company, and they want me to keep that load moving. Instead, how it is like, yeah, we understand your company wants you to keep moving, but you chose to keep moving, so it's on you. And it shouldn't be like that, because we as drivers, if we know there's something wrong with the truck, we want to get it fixed. And there should be a special card or fund or account where we could say, hey, we're not comfortable with a tire or brakes or a airline hose or lights or something, and have transparency and not held accountable if we report the issues or able to get it fixed the way we want without coming out of our pocket. You know, there should be some type of maintenance fund, and the DOT should take in consideration, like, the fines that they levy for, like, overweight and that kind of stuff. It stays in the trucking industry, and what happens is we're allowed to maybe access those funds to pay for the truck, and then DOT charges back the company saying, hey, your driver didn't feel safe and he felt that these were repairs that needed to be done, and then let the DOT make the money that way by charging interest or something on that. This way we could, you know, we could get the truck fixed and whatnot. Anyway, getting back to the stop at the rest area, and we took about a 15-20 minute break, whatever it was, and started realizing I confronted my boss, my trainer. And I told him, I said, you know what? I told him, after seeing the truck want to shut off twice and whatnot, I says, I never seen you check the oil or the antifreeze or anything under the hood. And what made me say that was I realized that we were on an incline and the truck wanted to shut off. So I felt it didn't do it on flat ground. I don't think it did it on downhill, but it did it on the uphill. So when I was thinking uphill, if you have a shortage of possibly fluid, it would be exaggerated or magnified or multiplied. So the truck and cars too have sensors in it when they sense either your coolant or engine oil low to protect the motor from further damage, because you have a lot of people as long as it runs, they're going to keep driving into the ground. So it implemented to try to shut down. So it made sense. So I just told him, I've never seen you check under the hood, the coolants, the oil, nothing, just gassing up, go wash the windows and that kind of shit. And I never seen you adjust the brakes, because then I could have learned off of it. So I didn't realize how much to heart he took that. What happened? Not sure, the freeze, the screen froze a little bit, so I think we got it going. But anyway, getting back to what I just said, he took it to heart, and the very next truck stop we stopped at, and we got fuel, I noticed he popped the hood, and he checked under the hood. So I was saying, so now you're going to check under there, I was saying. So I was fueling the truck, and maybe cleaning the windows, and he went in, and when he came out with a gallon of antifreeze and wound up coming out 2 gallons of engine oil. So coolant was low and the oil was low, which shocked me. So then I knew at the time that was what caused the truck to want to shut down on an uphill. And I figured out later that the trailer's brakes were probably out of whack, not working right, or more than likely out of adjustment. And that's why they weren't helped stop the truck and trailer loaded, and the truck's drive tires brakes were working overtime and couldn't slow that, and they were overheating, and it all made sense and whatnot. So I think I had my trainer's respect. He saw that I would think things out to try to understand, ask questions, and whatnot. Heck, it was so funny because he gave me a shirt because we were going out one shipper receiver, and he wanted to show that we were a company to make the pickup. So his shirt said trainer on it, so I kept it for a while longer. So when we went to the truck stop and stuff, and we would talk to other drivers, I tell the other drivers I was the trainer and he was my student, and they believed me. I think it embarrassed my trainer, because he was trying to talk his way out, telling him, no, that's my shirt and all this. And I was like, oh yeah, I was saying, look at these students, man. After a week, they want to become the trainer, unbelievable. And the guys were saying, yeah, we know how it is and stuff. I mean, he's a new jack, he's still wet behind the ears, So that's a little funny story there. But moral of the story is, that's the first time I smoked the brakes. And I understood why. But up until I understood why, I was scared. I said, hey man, this is a lot more dangerous than what I thought. It's not a cakewalk. It's not a walk in the park. And you gotta respect, that's why your pre-trips are very important. Your mid-trips are important. Whenever you're going down a major mountain or whatnot, or you see the sign, rest area or brake check area, do yourself a favor. Because sometimes the DOT is watching you, and there's a few I seen say all trucks must stop, and you could probably get pulled over, summons or ticketed because you didn't, and it said it. So be real cautious, pulling those things. Get out of the truck, stretch your legs, check all your tires, check your lights, check your air hoses. You might find something. Look under the hood. Check your coolant level, that kind of stuff, because a lot of times you're not going to catch nothing. But every 5, 6, 7, 10 times, 1 out of 10, you're going to catch something, and you're going to be glad you did. Okay, there's small things I caught. I caught a loose license plate, was ready to hang and fall off, man. It's embarrassing because, they're going to pull you over for that. Coming in the scale, the machines can't read it. At another time, I'll never forget, I was on top of a mountain in Tennessee, Mount Hood, something like that, I think. and that mountain, I caught my airline hoses coming from the truck to the trailer. It was those cheap nylon hoses, like plastic, and I didn't realize it. But how I used to adjust my trailer brakes is I would use the trolley brake, and I would take my soda, big mug of soda or coffee, and put it on the trolley handle and hold it down. And I'd go in the back and I'd listen to the clicks of the slack adjuster. So if it was clicking a lot, I knew it was out of adjustment. And that was kind of my way of doing it. I don't know if it's the proper way or not, but I got a big belly. I don't want to be rolling under that truck if I don't have to. So at the end, you get the same result. But when I was out there holding the trolley brake was my big mug of soda, I had air leaks coming out of the hose. There was like little porous holes in it. And I didn't realize that every time I stepped on the brake, I was losing air through the airline hose. Crazy. And the only way I was going to find that is by holding the trailer airbag pressure, because I roll solo, so it's not like I can have somebody in there holding the brake and whatnot. So that was a surprising thing that I did catch myself. I'm sure there's a few other things, worn out tires, didn't know you had a certain spot in the tire that was missing a good chunk, and by looking at the tire, maybe 5 out of the times you looked at it, you didn't see it, but you just happened to be at the different position and caught it. So that was something. I've caught, license plate light not working, catch my ABS light not functioning right, catch a clearance light. So the more you check, then eventually you're going to find. I know it's a lot of times going through the motions, but that's how it is, and you got to catch it, because if you don't and you get stopped by the Mr. DOT enforcement, truck enforcement, it's probably going to get written up, So you just want to be safe out there. A lot of times, stuff while you're driving, other drivers notice and they'll toot your horn, motion at you. If they're motion at you, something could be wrong, As long as you're not saying you're the number one, pull over the next exit. Or if you're going to be stopping soon, check things out. Check your tires, look around and see what might be obvious, okay, guys? Check your landing gear. Maybe you forgot to roll your landing gear up, Maybe your door is open and you just got unloaded. I have a habit of putting my lock on an empty or loaded trailer. Very rare I leave my trailer unlocked unless I'm at the shipper waiting to get loaded or unloaded, because the company that I started with, Stevens Transport, they hold a lot of produce and stuff, and one of the customers were located in Hunts Point Farmers Market there in the Bronx, and we were taught that while you're waiting at some of the traffic lights in the city getting there, guys might open up the back to see what you got. They think you got meat, poultry, fish, whatever, it's expensive. It's something they can open up, grab a couple cases. And the thing is, let's say you're empty, you got nothing. Now the light changed quick. You think he's going to let you know your door is open? Are they going to bother closing your door? They're off to the next truck. So they'll leave it unlocked. You get a couple bad potholes there, your door swings open, and you got problems. A swinging door can cause a lot of damage, can hit somebody, a pedestrian, can hit another truck, damage to somebody's long-nosed Pete truck, hit a car, just bust a window on a van. It's all crazy stuff. So I didn't want to make the video too long, and just again, that story I initially told was how I got my truck brakes burnt for the first time while I was still driver training with my trainer. Amazing. Anyway, guys, keep it between the lanes. Be safe. God bless. And please have a DOT-free day. Okay?